If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. Listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No-nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Greetings and salutations, counterculture-wise listeners. This is Maximilian von Riegelbieser inviting you and yours to listen to me and mine. Join me, my sisters Abby and Fritzy, and my weekly guests, my father Jim and Mumsy Melanie, for Counterculture-wise.
Max, it's not your show!
And we're not your guests, Max. We're the hosts. You may want to rein it in a little bit, buddy.
Very well. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific at counterculturewise.com for our amazing live variety show. You can even chat with us. If you ask me, though, it should be called Counterculture Max.
Counterculture Wise! Radio with heart in mind.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons, or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. Are You Ready is an NP Media Group production and is the official broadcast of the Zombie Outpost in Wilmington, Ohio. The views and opinions expressed during this broadcast are those of the host and not that of the station, advertisers, or its affiliates. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper.
You never know when an emergency is going to happen. Disaster can strike at any time. Whether stuck on the road, riding out a power outage, escaping a natural disaster, or surviving a doomsday apocalypse, what would you do? No matter the scale, whether 1 hour or 1 year, will you survive? You're about to hear what it takes to be prepared. Now ask yourself, are you ready?
Have you ever heard the term prepper? What comes to mind? Some of you may think it's a crazy guy with a bomb shelter and an old army truck parked on the front lawn. Well, prepper simply is a person who is ready for almost any emergency, small or large. You see, it's no different than on a rainy day, taking an umbrella with you when you leave your home or putting a coat on when it's cold outside. So maybe you think you're prepared for a brief time in that environment. But what if a few minutes turn into a day or even a year? I'm your host, Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper, and I'm going to use my over 25 years of prepping and survival experience and knowledge in this program to help you prepare you and your family and your friends and whoever else is along with you for the ride to handle almost anything from a small event to a doomsday apocalypse. So get ready, because I am prepared to enlighten you to seriously think, prepare, and answer the question, are you ready? And I want to hear anything you have to say about the subject, whatever you may have to offer. See, it's important that we share our knowledge with each other, learn from each other, and help each other out. See, the more prepared those around us are, the better your chances of survival will be when a disaster happens. So I'm sure everyone has heard the term zombies. Well, those are just those that come after whatever you have because they are not prepared. This is a live call-in show. The call-in number is 513-815-6336 if you want to be a part of the show. Again, that's 513-815-6336. Also, check out our live chat room on Spreaker. That's Spreaker, Spreaker.com. And I also post exclusive content on the home of Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram when I feel like it. Just go to Are You Ready Radio. You can interact with other members of the prepping and survival community before, during, and after the broadcast. Share your knowledge. Again, the call-in number is 513-815-6336, and I will also put that in the chat room. So, welcome to the show, everyone. I went through some of the messages from the past week, and I appreciate everybody's feedback and comments. I'm glad to be back here, and of course at a new time and day. And, I really kind of jumped into it, and a lot of folks are just like, wait a minute, what do you mean? What's going on in the rest of the world? This is not a political talk show. This is not a political commentary in any means. There are other shows out there for it. And, what I'm doing here is just helping you get ready. You see, my job here is to prepare and not scare you. And I know that sounds very cliche, and I thought about it throughout this week, where it's like, well, what do we do with all this Russia stuff going on? What do we do? There's a whole world war coming. And, folks come into the store, and they want to pick my mind about it. And all this, and the advice based on the conversations that we have at that moment are valid. Everybody needs to just kind of start working on their own plan. I could walk around in a gas mask all day, just like a champ, just like the best of them. What do you think is happening? What should we do? My simple answer to that is do the best you can. Do what you can do with the means that you have. There's no real answer to that question, I should say. So if you think about it this way, a lot of folks are getting into this for the first time. A lot of folks are really opening up their eyes after the warning shot, as I call it, after the drill that we had with the COVID. And, they're sitting there thinking like, I really need to start taking this seriously. I really need to think about what my plan really is. A lot of folks were not prepared for that, and they really just need to figure out where to start. So this episode is really dedicated to the person that is trying to figure out what to do first, where to start, where to begin. And are you new to prepping? How long have you been prepping? Do you know where to start? And do you know what you're preparing for? And along with that also comes some of the inner emotions, some of the inner feelings and anxiety. Some folks may have felt or feel or are afraid of feeling overwhelmed. So, why are you prepping? So if you're brand new to the idea of prepping, you're really like many other people out there. And you're really trying to figure it out. You're likely feeling quite anxious. And feeling anxious is okay. I don't want to sound like the Stuart Smalley from a Saturday Night Live sketch, but like, oh, you're feeling anxious? But that's okay. Because you may be smart enough, you may be good enough, and doggone it, even us preppers like you. So it's natural. And I'll talk more about the anxiety that most people feel prepping later on. And the simple fact that you're listening to this show means that you have made the decision to get ready for something. Maybe you're not the doomsday prepper that you see in TV shows. Maybe you're not ready to fight the zombie apocalypse, armed to the teeth. But at least you're getting ready for something, and it is time to get ready. It's time to prepare. And are you ready to take action? Being ready to take action is different than actually taking action. If you're listening to the show already, you just took action and decided it's time to prepare. But what action should you take first? What is the next step now that you took this action? You know, it's very easy to get overwhelmed and confused sorting through the vast amount of information out there. I mean, there's thousands of books, blogs, groups. You may even find some ads on the internet and some blogs and everything. Hey, sign up for this membership to give you all the answers. If you buy a timeshare over here, we have all the answers in this utopia. Email lists, courses, articles, magazines. The list goes on and on and on forever. And you may be trying to figure it out. I mean, hundreds of questions. Where should you begin? What should you do first? What course should you try to buy? What membership or community should you join? Who should you follow? Me. Whose advice is trustworthy? Probably mine if you're listening to this. Should you stockpile water, first aid, food first? How much of each should you store? What about bugging out versus hunkering down, bugging in, shelter in place? What survival gear is necessary? What's optional? How much will it cost? Are there cheaper alternatives? What if I can't afford it? Or what if I have all this money in the world? What do I buy? Big doomsday apocalyptic zombie hunting vehicle of doom? Iron-plated? Well, you know, I just want to hope that this program will answer most of your questions and how to get started. And that's all this is about. So I'm going to cover some of the basics in this show, and we can build on that in future broadcasts. At least this way, you'll have a good base of supplies, tools, confidence, and a lot of different things to survive most future disasters. Now, if you haven't survived past disasters, obviously you're not listening. But this is for those of you that are still around that survived past disasters, hone in your skills, and get you on board with how to survive, or even if not survive, maybe thrive some future disasters. Once you got the basics in place, you move on to more advanced supplies, tools, and tactics, and all that. You know, and I will address some things. I mean, there has been a lot going on, and, you know, a lot of folks may not understand how to deal with current situations. So, to answer some of the messages that I've been sent, I will deviate slightly off to the sidebar here. And, you know, it's kind of one of those things where I get messages, both through our Instagram and Facebook channel, as well as great conversation that happens through the store, when it comes to, what do you think of this? What about this? What about that? Well, folks, I'm just going to give you the rundown on statistics. And throughout this broadcast, I mean, and this is just in light of today's new information coming in. And I follow it like crazy. I follow it by the minute. I take the information that's being fed to me through multiple outlets, multiple channels, multiple sources. I filter it in. I come up with how I can adapt my plan, how I can respond to what I do to benefit my family and I. So today, gas prices, and we're at Wednesday at 7 p.m., March 9th of the year 2022. Gas prices are the all-time high, and this is in California, $5.73 a gallon. 11.3 million job openings, 7 million people actually looking for work. The cybersecurity sector is begging for people, but only a handful of everybody applying is actually qualified. A lot of firms, even though they upped wages to entice people to come back to work, don't have enough money, or they're not offering a wage that's attractive to people to really come back to work. And this is also in the cybersecurity sector. Cost of food is up over 7%. And the employer-employee ratio is way out of whack. I was talking to someone, and this is what made me think of these statistics and do some research, literally 20 minutes before I came on the air this evening, to look up some of these. Because I was talking to a neighbor of mine, and he told me, he goes, I went to fill my gas tank on my way home from work today. And he commutes about 25 minutes from where he lives to work every day. It's cheaper for him to call out than go to work. I mean, he's got vacation time. He's got different leaves that they can use and stuff like that. That's part of his package. I mean, that's part of his employment there. He has certain sick days, vacation days, and all that. It's cheaper for him to call out the next, I think he said he has like 16 or 17 days that he could use right now than it would be to get to work. And he'd make just as much. In fact, he'd make more because he's not spending any money. He's making what he normally makes, whether he's salary or hourly. But he's making more money staying home than he is showing up for it because he has no expense to get there. Less maintenance on the car, no gas, no stress, gets to sleep a little bit, gets to do some projects around the home. He actually did say he was going to actually probably seal a floor in his garage and then paint one of the rooms. It's cheaper for him to do that than it is for him to go to work just because of gas prices. So this is a very interesting thing. We just went through almost 2 years of folks that didn't need to go to work because of unemployment benefits extended. We just went through a whole time frame where now we're trying to bring people back to work, and it costs them more to work than they're making, no matter what the incentives are. What does that mean for the prepper? What does that mean for the average survivalist? What does that mean, the average survivalist? I don't think there's any survivalists out there that's average, so let's just go back on that one. But, one of the main focuses of prepping is to build self-reliance. And it's kind of like building a house. You need a rock-solid foundation in place before you build any walls, and you need walls before you even have a roof. So where do you start in prepping? You know, the conversation with my neighbor led me to think about some of that financial stability, being established in a business, being established in a company that you have some sort of benefits package, some sort of vacation package, some sort of, paid time off and all that, just to weather through certain things. That is part of a foundation, and we need to look at that closely. And that's also kind of the one fundamental concept when it comes to prepping. So when it comes to building a foundation, the first thing you need to look at or need to get or do, a lot of times people think of gear. A lot of times people think, and gear is the main topic of debate. I mean, among many preppers, both experienced and novice, and, a lot of times people say water. Some say, the last resort is some way to stay warm. Like a bivvy, because if you freeze, you don't need water. If you freeze to death, some say a bug-out bag. Others go right to food. All those are great to have. But are they really the first thing you need? You have to look at the foundation. And part of that is kind of like a plan. What are you prepping for? You really need to start with a common disaster in your area. Take some time to research the most likely disasters or events that could occur. This includes things like weather events like hurricanes, flooding, earthquakes, and economic collapse. And some threats may be highly unlikely depending on your area, but highly unlikely doesn't mean they won't happen. But accepting that there is a real risk, you will be in a better situation, even psychologically, when disaster does strike. So, alone, it may be enough to save you since you're ready to take action. It'll definitely help you from panic in the face of danger. We're going to get to that. And that's what we're covering on this episode of Are You Ready? We also have some great financial advice, tips from the Prepper Kitchen, pet prepping tips, and even some of your food tips. So if you want to be a part of the show, feel free to call in. And we are coming up to the bottom of the first hour. So stick around. We're coming back with all this and more on Are You Ready Radio. I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit ZombieOutpostStore.com for location and hours.
Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Greetings and salutations, Counterculture-Wise listeners. This is Maximilian von Riegelbieser inviting you and yours to listen to me and mine. Join me, my sisters Abby and Fritzy, and my weekly guests, my father Jim and Mumsy Melanie, for Counterculture-Wise.
Max, it's not your show!
And we're not your guests, Max. We're the hosts. You may want to rein it in a little bit, buddy.
Very well. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific at counterculturewise.com for our amazing live variety show. You can even chat with us. If you ask me, though, it should be called Counterculture Max.
Counterculture-Wise! Radio with heart in mind.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons, or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. And welcome back, everyone, to Are You Ready Radio. I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. 513-815-6336. 513-815-6336 is a way to be a part of the program. Feel free to join us. This week, we are going to dive into the basics, the very first steps of prepping, and hopefully alleviate all your anxiety that comes along with it. So, let's dive into the episode. Before the break, we're really just talking about, some of the recent changes happening, and what steps can you take to prepare for just really anything. I mean, things like storms, floods, unrest. Most of them really require you to shelter in place, and if you're new to prepping, you want to hunker down for most emergencies. And why? Because leaving the safety of your home and supplies could end in a disaster. Most disasters will have an apex. There will be a ramp up to chaos, and at some point, things will eventually settle down. And, cleanup period will begin. So for most disasters, it really is safer to hunker down, shelter in place, whatever you want to call it, bug in, and wait things out. So where do you really start? A lot of folks are like, oh, we need to get the battle tank, we need to get all this gear and years worth of freeze-dried food and all this. No. Do you need a bug-out bag yet? Maybe not. I mean, yeah, it's always good to have. Is that really step one? I guess if you're prone, to your place burning down at every given moment, then yeah, maybe you want to have some place with a, backup source to just get a hotel room if you need it for the night, or a couple days, and maybe the funds to do that. But most disasters really do start with some simple shelter-in-place situations. So a lot of times it is safer to shelter in place than to actually run out and say, I am wild man, I'm going to run in the woods, give me my loincloth and my kilt and my machete and my kukri and all my guns and ammo, and I am going to run around the woods and gather nuts and berries and kill the squirrels and provide for my family and traps and snares. It doesn't really work that way starting out. So, although that may be a very ambitious plan, and maybe that may be your end goal, you may not draw your doomsday apocalyptic zombie fighting war wagon into a frozen tundra somewhere where you believe that you're going to gather nuts, berries, and hunt squirrels. In the end, with poor planning, you may just get mauled by polar bears and freeze to death. So let's start with a more realistic approach, and welcome to everybody in the chat. If anybody else wants to join us in our chat room, and you can also join us on our call-in line, 513-815-6336. Hello, Dave. Welcome. So what do we got going on in there? The man who you can count on to get the points. Oh, is that my name after that? Well, hey, I appreciate that. If anybody else wants to chime in the chat, you have anything to add to this episode, please feel free to. Maybe I'm completely wrong. Unless anybody says so, I don't know. So, when it comes to starting out when you're prepping, some of the very basics that you want to start with, like I said before the break, the ongoing debate. Oh, we need water, we need food, we need berries, we need weapons, we need this, we need that, we need all this other stuff. A gas mask, because everybody needs to be able to breathe. We need, do you need food? Do you really need to stockpile food? Well, if you look around your home, you may already have a few days' worth of food. So do you need MREs? Meals ready to eat? You know, those freeze-dried, prepackaged, cardboard, dehydrated meals in a bag that a lot of preppers like to glorify and like have wet dreams about. Maybe you don't. Buckets of survival food. Oh my God. Buckets of survival food, yet your freezer, fridge, and cabinets have plenty for a few weeks. You know, it may not be a complete meal that you're used to every night. You know, maybe your freezer has like a couple hamburgers in it, frozen tater tots, couple lean cuisine, like the, you know, those little TV dinners and stuff. If you're a microwave junkie, which I should actually do a nice little video on turning those little TV dinners into like really good meals. That could be fun. I'll do that for Tips from the Bunker on the YouTube channel. You know, you may not have everything at that moment for your favorite recipe with all the trimmings, but you have food. And you can make a meal out of what you have. Do you need water? Well, maybe not. Maybe your water's still running. You may have some bottled water, juice. You may have the ability to gather water from, you know, the faucet. You know, even with little warning. So you should be fine there. And even in a pinch, you really do have water stored. And you may not even know it. It's in your hot water heater, the back of your toilet bowl, maybe ice trays in your freezer. I mean, you may have enough for a few days if you really need it. You know, I like a conversation that I saw online. It's just like, oh, everybody needs a bivvy, self-warming, last-minute warmth device tool, something or other. I'm like, oh, a bivvy. Yes. A giant potato chip bag in a sack is definitely something that's going to keep you alive forever. Well, you know how that works in my book. That's later on. You know, a lot of times in your home, oh, we need a bivvy, method of staying warm. You know, in the summer it's not needed. If you live in a warm area, you don't need it. And most likely, if you may have some blanket sheets, quilts, and even alternatives to insulate a room. If you just close it off, you know, if it is cold, just using what heat you have with those blanket sheets and quilts. Maybe you have a fireplace. Okay, air. Well, if you're listening to this, you're breathing. If you're not breathing, you're just laying on the floor and can't use any of the other stuff I'm about to talk about because you're not breathing. So, okay, yeah, air I guess could be important, but what do you think is number one? What do you think the number one item is? Now, this is not the trick question that I have asked on past shows. This is not the trick question. What's the most important device or tool that you have? And I'll answer that right now. That is your brain. That is not the answer to this question. What is the number one item that you may need to get? Drop a message in the chat room or call in 513-815-6336. And Dave, you know, you're close. You got it. I think you've heard some past broadcasts. He's in the chat room. If anybody wants to chime in on the chat, Dave, yes, you're right. Yes, that is the number one. How do we say? Did I just say tool or device or whatever. Yeah, well, that's the number one, is your brain. Without a good brain, without a good mind, any item you have, any piece of equipment, gear, anything like that, you're not going to survive if you don't have a good working mind. But we're talking about, what is the one thing that you should buy or have aside from the mind? So if anybody else has a suggestion, drop it in the chat room. And Dave, that is normally number one on my list. That is what is the most important thing you should have is your mind. And you are correct in that one, Dave. But what is the one item that you should get is the question. So I'll give it a little bit of time. Okay, time's up. So the number one item, my pick, is to solve, whether it's water, food, self-defense, ammo, homestead, EMP-proof, bunkers, bomb shelters, and all this. It actually is, and some folks may hear this and just be like, is he out of his mind? Yeah, maybe. Although unorthodox, highly effective, an alternate cooking method. Why an alternate cooking method, though? Because you don't need all those MREs. You may have enough non-perishable food in your pantry. The average household may have that. But wait a minute. Shouldn't I be stockpiling food? What about water? Like I said, you may have 50 gallons of water that you don't even know about. You should eat the food you normally eat first. That most likely is going to be in your refrigerator. It's pretty much ready to eat. Unless you have some raw chicken defrosting and all of a sudden the power goes out and you're going to serve that for dinner. If you don't have a way to cook it, it's going to go bad. All the food in your pantry that you may have. I mean, even if you have 2 or 3 boxes of macaroni and cheese, a box of pasta, flour, sugar, stuff like that, you're good. Don't worry about it. You got food. I'll walk you through there in a little bit. You got a freezer full of stuff. But with an alternative cooking method, you have a way to boil water to make it safe to drink. Whether you find it in a puddle, a toilet, or anywhere, you have a way to cook food. If you start eating the food in your refrigerator that you may already have, and then you go to the freezer that may need to be cooked, you need an alternative cooking method for that. Oh, the water ice trays, don't forget about that. Then the pantry, the dried and canned stuff. You may not need 5-gallon buckets full of beans. And you're not ready to run out into the wild to start gathering nuts and berries and beat a chipmunk with a large piece of furniture just to be able to eat it. And if you're as good at fishing as I am, well, having an alternative cooking method is just fine. Some homes have multiple refrigerators and freezers. Some of them have deep freezers. Those big chest freezers. So that's the food you want to eat first. You may have plenty of food already on hand, as long as you have a way to cook it. And it's also a good method for heat to stay warm. You can clean medical instruments, and there's a ton of other uses for it. So an alternative cooking method could be something as simple as a grill, propane, charcoal, a fire pit outside. Just need some wood. A fireplace or a wood-burning stove. So think about those as alternative cooking methods, and that's where you want to start. Then you can worry about your water, food, and all the other gear that almost every prepping and survival website, blog, forum, membership, organization, and you name it, tells you that you need to buy. As long as you have an alternative cooking method. So if you have a fireplace or a wood-burning stove, really you got to look at the cookware that you have. Can you use it in a fireplace or a wood-burning stove or on a grill? Do you have a grill? You want to keep fuel on hand for it. Is it charcoal? Is it propane? Is it natural gas? If it's natural gas, just get a backup for that too. I mean, just get a charcoal grill. Dig a hole in your yard. Keep a couple bags of charcoal on hand and some lighter fluid. And just be ready to cook on that. You know, really some, even portable camping grills. But, some cast iron cookware you can find really cheap. I mean, if you go to like flea markets, if you go to thrift shops and stuff, and flea markets are awesome for finding especially a lot of cast iron cookware. I mean, flea markets are a haven for preppers. I mean, sometimes it's just like, if you have a shop like ours in a flea market, you have prepper headquarters right there. But anything that we don't carry, there's a vendor within an aisle or two that has what you may be looking for. Especially cast iron and cookware. To use not just on a campfire, but, tons of other uses. Camping grills are great. When I was in Fletcher, Ohio, there was a huge power outage for days when a storm came through. And all the neighbors just kept bringing their food over to cook. And we had the time of our lives. It was like everybody brought their guitars and food over because I just kept the fire going. Everybody brought wood, and they just, in turn, had a fire going to cook and grills and all that. It was a lot of fun. A week plus without fire in the fire pit. That's all it was. Once you establish your alternate cooking source, everything else just really falls into play. And then, once you understand how to purify and filter water, and that's just simple knowledge, then maybe you want to stockpile some water. So my number one on my list versus whatever you will read on every prepper, survival, blog, forum, program, whatever, is alternate cooking source or method. That's really it. Followed by water. Now we get into the storing the maybe 1 to 2 gallons of water per person per day. Start with a 3-day supply. You're just starting out. Now, how hard was step 1? How many of you actually have a grill? How many of you actually know how to light something on fire in your backyard? Well, good. Now you just need a freaking pot to cook on it. Alternate cooking method was not that hard. How much did it cost you so far? Depending on your jurisdiction, maybe a fine. But when the fit hits the shan, just to keep it clean for radio, I doubt the fire marshal Bill's going around giving citations for lighting a fire in a barrel on a city block. It's survival, folks. So water is next up on the list. And like I said, 1 to 2 gallons of water is going to be sufficient. Start with a 3-day supply. Of course, maybe your goal should be maybe 2 weeks and eventually 2 months. But A lot of times you'll read certain posts and blogs and stuff like that, and it says, oh my God, everybody needs at least 1 gallon of water per day. I go for 2. Because if you don't have the running water, if the faucets are frozen in extreme freeze, a number of things could happen. You're going to need that water for your own personal hygiene, not just for drinking, but also for cooking, sanitation, and a lot of other things. So count on maybe half of that goes towards just your hygiene, sanitation, doing some dishes, rinsing stuff off, washing your hands. And the other gallon is something that you will drink. We do have some tips coming up, which we are going to get to after this commercial break. So I want everybody to stick around. We're going to get into food and some of the actual real gear that all those preppers love. And even some self-defense mechanisms. And, of course, we have our financial, pet, and prepper kitchen tip of the week. I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. I'll be right back.
Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker. When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No-nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Hey, how you doing? This is Magic Pierce inviting you and yours to listen to some good friends of mine that have a show too. Did you really think my daddy is the only one that just runs his mouth all the time and that's the only thing I listen to? No, it's not. I got a show I listen to on Sundays. Join host Max and his co-host, my hottie Fritzy, and of course my good friend Abby on Counterculture-Wise, Sundays at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 Eastern. They have their own human guests, Melanie and Jim, each week. They don't meow a lot, but you get what they're saying. Now let me tell you, you have to go to counterculturewise.com. Use your paws to play with the mouse and scroll down to the on-the-air button on the right to hear their show. Just click on that. After that, watch them on Periscope like I do. Daddy gives me a little mouse to play with, and I get farts the whole time. It's a great show. Check it out. Counterculturewise.com. If you don't tune in, I get cuckoos on you.
Thank you so much for that ringing endorsement, Magic. It warms the orange hearts of me and Abby and the gray heart of Fritzy to hear you say such amazing things about our show. I'm pretty sure that Mumsy and Father have pink hearts, so we will assume their hearts are warmed too.
Forget about it. I got you guys. Good peoples.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons, or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper.
Yeah, there we go. All right. I'm here helping you get ready to prepare for the next zombie apocalypse. I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. If you're just tuning in, the call-in number is 513-815-6336. So before the break, we were going through some of the prepping basics that we need, and we struck on number 1. And it took an hour to get here, followed by number 2, water. And we're going on to food. Now, you may have water, so build up at least 2 weeks of non-perishable food per person. And 2 weeks is an amount of food that really is obtainable with a relatively short time frame and a small budget. You know, every time you go to the store, if you just buy an extra can or an extra box of something that doesn't require anything perishable to go with it. So, I mean, you can buy like hamburger helper and stuff like that. But you're going to want the hamburger to go with it. Unless you have like a $15 can of 25-year-old ground beef that you can stockpile. I mean, not 25-year-old ground beef, but, you know, some of that beef in a can that lasts 25 years. You know, it's something you could achieve within a relatively short time frame. So, you know, here's another debated topic. What foods do you store? You know, a lot of times you're like, what are the best survival foods to stockpile? And here we go. You go to the internet and you're like, what survival foods am I going to store? And really,
the best survival foods are just really what you eat. There's no mystery behind it. You don't need to get into buckets of beans and rice. Seasonings to make bland food taste good are just fine. So maybe some basil, paprika, garlic powder. Little containers of that. We're not talking about making, Permacin and hard track and vacuum bags and 5-gallon buckets. The typical, I'm good for 10, 12 years if I sit in the bedroom or the basement or the bunker. And, I forgot about those wonderful MREs. Remember, you're just starting out. And don't forget, no anxiety, stress, or getting overwhelmed. Now, everybody just breathe real quick. No. We could all be a prepper and not get overwhelmed. We do not need a helicopter. We do not need barrels and buckets. There. Doesn't that feel better? Just store food that you normally eat. If you buy a can of beans, buy one more. If you like tomato soup, just buy one more. If you like spinach in a can, which I hate. I can't stand spinach in a can. Oh, God, so much for that nice relaxing moment. Ugh. Canned corn is okay. I actually prefer canned corn over frozen corn. Frozen corn just tastes like cardboard. Now I'm getting anxiety just talking about this. But anyway, if you store what you eat and eat what you store, that's probably the most effective way of just stockpiling just a small cachet of food for when the fit hits the shan. So, that actually brings me to our Prepper Kitchen.
Burp, 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 burpy burp, 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 burpy burp, 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 burpy burp, 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 burpy burp, burp, burp.
So, many preppers cook at home. And kind of like I was saying in the last segment, that means that you look to build a prepper kitchen through different products. Well, these, just to keep it clean for the radio, fit hits the shan. Chefing, I guess you could say. You want to eat healthier, you want to save money, and you want to build and maintain basic survival skills that will be necessary once the grid goes down and everyone really wants a hot meal. So that brings me to some of the things that I have in my kitchen that I want to share with you. And it does require a slightly different set of kitchen products that we were talking about when it comes to the alternate cooking method or a backup survival or prepper kitchen cooking method that we spoke about earlier in the broadcast. These all should have one thing in common. First of all, they do not rely on electricity. Don't think that your prepper plan is going to be like, my stove doesn't work, so I'm just going to plug in an electric skillet. It doesn't work that way. Assuming there is no electricity. Electric grills, electric frying pans, electric skillets, electric microwaves. Obviously, they're electric. Anything that requires electricity is not worth adding to a prepper's kitchen. The only thing that I could think of that would be the exception to the rule is anything that would help you to preserve food today for the use later. So, cookware, in my opinion, has always been important. And this is where we get into the cast iron thing. So, can it be used not just on a stovetop, but in your alternate cooking method? And I have an assortment of cast iron. It can be used on a stove, an oven, over a fire, on a grill. So next time you're shopping for a new frying pan, consider maybe cast iron as your option. And that is my prepping kitchen tip of the week. So now that we've gone through food and all that, we've covered a lot of the basics. And how easy was that? It really didn't take much. It was not much out of the wallet. It didn't take much thought. An alternate cooking methods, some water, and some food. Well, now we're going to get into some of the maybe gear. I mean, yeah, I guess it's exciting for the main prepper. It's like, oh yeah, we want to hear all about the gear. You know, as soon as you start talking about gear, this is like a porn for any prepper. Well, this is not going to be about the main, the best knife to get, the best axe, hatchet, shovel, entrenching tool, multi-tool, or anything like that. It's kind of goes back to an electronic thing, and that's just a hand crank radio. Once you've established your alternate cooking method, you have your water, you have your food, your alternate cooking method can contribute a lot to all that. As long as you know the order on which to eat your food in, it's really important to be informed. And this is why on my list, number 4 is the hand crank radio. In any disaster, you can't rely on electric power. Because if the power goes out, tornado hits, towers go down, storms, floods, you name it, hurricanes, tsunamis, midget invasion, all this. What the hell is going on? When the power is out, most electronic devices, including TVs, computers, phones, they're not going to work. Well, you need to know if it's a storm, is it passing? If something's going on, is it safe to go outside? Is the water supply compromised? Are roads blocked? Is there flooding? Is it getting worse? Are there more attacks happening? Where are the attacks happening? All this information can be supplied to you over a simple AM, FM, and even with weather band radio. So if you have a simple crank radio that doesn't rely on batteries, that doesn't rely on being plugged into a wall, and you can't rely on your cell phone because you don't know what's going to happen with those signals, towers and stuff like that. And I get it, AM, FM radio transmission does rely on towers, but, those have been the most reliable for decades. Actually, almost a century. Over a century. So, a radio that you have should have both AM and FM and weather band, if you can get it. The hand crank radio version, it allows you to generate your own power to charge the radio's battery just from cranking it. Some of them also have solar charging. They also have USB ports to charge, not just the radio when there is power, so you don't have to crank it. But it also has a jack to plug a standard USB cable into it, just like you'd plug it into the block that goes in your wall, to actually charge your phone and other devices. Isn't that simple? So now you're generating your own power through a simple little device that's also giving you information. Now, number 5 on my list is basic self-defense measures. You can have certain things like that. You have your water, your food, your alternate cooking source, and a means of receiving information. Are you safe? Both your home and your person. And I'm just going to cover the bare minimum here. Remember, this is just where you're starting. And this is where you're building on. So things like martial arts, firearms, ammo, and some of the other weapons, we'll save that for another episode. I want to focus on the easy to use, easy to purchase, ready to use when needed, with no experience necessary, no training required. There's no special licensing. This is your own person. And I've researched a number of different self-defense devices, tactics, and everything. And I come up with one. One. Now, for anybody that knows me, they may look at my weapons wall and just be like, well, wait, that's the best you can come up with? Yeah, pretty much. Pepper spray. That's it. Pepper spray. Although the list of personal self-defense items can go on forever and ever and ever, this is the one item that you should have. It's the most effective, even at distance or close range. It almost seems to be the most underrated. And look at home defense. Even with home defense, having something, it makes no noise. Even in public, it makes no noise. When you have a thing of pepper spray in your hand, I think that if someone recognizes that you have it there, it's just as deterrent as the of a shotgun. I think it's just as deterrent as holding a gun in someone's face when they mean you harm. It's silent. And it's non-lethal. You never want to use lethal force unless it's absolutely necessary. And it could be a close or distance weapon. Not even weapon. Self-defense tool. I can't even call it a weapon. It's liquid pepper. Some of you may have it in your kitchen already. Put a hot sauce in an insect sprayer. Pump it up a few times. And you just made homemade pepper spray. Oh, did I give recipes out over the air? Well, I guess I just did. Well, whatever. It happens. What could have inspired me to do that? On airwaves? Could it be Satan? Anyway. So, you have a plan. You have your home, you have your gear, you have your family. Everybody has their own personal choice of how they want to defend that family, and they all have their own conscious, standards and, ways they want to do it. Another thing, and I had a very interesting conversation with someone the other night where they didn't have deadbolt locks on their doors. And I was talking about door jams. I was talking about, simple jam bars, and they have alarm triggers built in. And it's a great alternative, especially if you rent and don't have a deadbolt or an alarm system. So a tip for a renter, if you're listening, if you rent and don't have deadbolts or some type of flimsy door, I recommend that you make a formal request to your landlord. This is on the legal aspect. If you want to be heard, and, the landlord to believe you, and it really is hard that a landlord would be so cheap to refuse to install a deadbolt, because why do they want that liability? So, most landlords would want to avoid potential liability and install a deadbolt, especially if you put a formal request in writing. And the words should include, and by law, and particularly in your state, I am concerned about my safety. So if you include that in an official written complaint or written request to your landlord, I am concerned about my safety and I need a deadbolt, or I'm requesting a deadbolt be installed on my door because I am concerned about my safety, then that's enough. What that does is it flips duty of care and liability over to the landlord, and we can get into that on a side conversation. But if you own your home, maybe you don't need an expensive alarm security system. So many options out there, aside from hiring a professional alarm or security company, there's a lot of DIY systems out there, and they're very affordable. And find what works best for you, research some of the solutions, and based on your situation and budget, you'll be able to find one. There's so many things like, even things like Ring doorbell. I guess, I know they say they're Ring, but it's a motion-activated camera. So you can put it anywhere. Whatever. You can buy keychains that are motion-activated, like alarms for your car key fobs. You can, motion-activated cameras are so cheap now that you can just, all the footage is backed up in a cloud if you can't hook it up to your computer, but your computer runs it. These things are like $20, $30, $40. Even if it's just a peace of mind for your own safety, do it. It's just some degree of home protection. And of course, there's other alternatives. Right now you're just starting out. I'm not going to sit here and say that, especially to, a lot of folks that listen to this broadcast, well, I got a gun. I don't need to worry about that. I have my right to stand my ground. I have blah, blah, blah. I have crossbows and Chinese hook swords, and I'm a master in this and that. Okay, this episode is about where to start. Simple home protection. A simple alarm to give you time to get to deter someone. You can get door alarms with magnetic strips at the dollar store. You get 2 for $1.25 now. Because the dollar store that I got mine at a few years ago is now $1.25, not $1 anymore, but nonetheless. Simple home protection alarm system, anything like that. You could buy a motion detecting IR, infrared is what IR is, motion camera. You put a memory card in, and it'll record for, depending on the size of the memory card, a month. Sometimes up to a year if it accepts a card that big. For less than an alarm system or security company or cameras or anything like that to be professionally installed. So think about that, folks. And basic medical supplies is my next thing, and knowledge for that as well. During a disaster, you can't really rely on your doctor, emergency medical services, the emergency room, for medical treatment. Especially over the past few years, emergency rooms have been packed full of folks. Everything with a sniffle think they're going to die from the Fauci disease to a number of things. And if things are bad enough, doctors and first responders may choose to stay at home. They're going to be staying with their families to tend to their needs, and you may not have anybody to respond. So start with basic first aid kit in your home and teach yourself some basic first aid training. And you may be better off for you and your family and understand their medical needs and how to treat certain conditions that they have. So that's another thing as well. Are you equipped to deal with certain conditions? Do you have basic first aid knowledge? And then, after that, before this break, before I go there, now I will mention the bivvy, the self-warming device. If you notice what I did here, folks, the number one item on the list has now become number 7 in one group of research. In another group of research, water always had to be number 1. That was the cooking device. But your self-warming, this I can't be cold, it's all about comfort. Now you can get your bivvy. And you can get your bivvy now. I mean, you could buy one at the Zombie Outpost. Go to Cedar Creek Flea Market. Now you can get your bivvy. But you see how easy everything I just said up to this point was? It's stuff that you may have laying around right beside you. So, yeah. But up until now, you're probably thinking, oh my God, I don't know if I can do this. Well, folks, yes, you can. And we're giving you more when I come right back. I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. You're listening to Are You Ready Radio. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also visit our home on the web. Just go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the program's link. If you missed the live show, you can listen to the show's archives on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Google Podcasts, CastBox, Deezer, and many more, including our home on Spreaker.
When a disaster happens, are you ready? Do you have the supplies you need to keep you and your family safe and survive? The Zombie Outpost store in Wilmington, Ohio, at Cedar Creek Flea Market, stocks quality gear you need to be ready for the next emergency or even a camping trip. Visit zombieoutpoststore.com for location and hours. Check out our assortment of essentials you need when the next disaster happens. Go to zombieoutpoststore.com. Get 10% off at checkout when you mention Are You Ready Radio. Be ready and be prepared.
In this digital society, making connections is quickly becoming a lost art form. Yet, if you are a small business owner, building your network is the only way you can get ahead. Can these skills be learned? You bet they can. Read Nose to Nose Networking. No-nonsense, in-person networking tips from a master. Who's the master? Well, who better to teach networking and friend-building skills than a golden retriever? The author, Melanie Hope, takes the antics of Abigail and translates them into the human experience. Through Abby, you will learn how to set your intention, build a network, and get into and out of conversations with grace. If you love the Dog Abby segments on Counterculture-Wise Radio, you will love Nose to Nose Networking even more. Find it on Amazon and Barnes & Noble in hard copy, Kindle, and Nook. Visit counterculturewise.com for direct links.
Greetings and salutations, Counterculture-Wise listeners. This is Maximilian von Riegelbieser inviting you and yours to listen to me and mine. Join me, my sisters Abby and Fritzy, and my weekly guests, my father Jim and Mumsy Melanie, for Counterculture-Wise.
Max, it's not your show.
And we're not your guests, Max. We're the hosts. You may want to rein it in a little bit, buddy.
Very well. Tune in every Sunday at 6 p.m. Pacific at counterculturewise.com for our amazing live variety show. You can even chat with us. If you ask me, though, it should be called Counterculture Max.
Counterculture Wise! Radio with heart in mind.
Got a spare tire around that waist? Is your muffin top over the top? Do you binge eat uncontrollably? We are the government and we are here to help you. Here at our free FEMA weight loss camp, we have numerous ways to help you shed those unsightly, unwanted pounds. FEMA, or Fatties Eating Mitigated, automatically has a communist-style weight loss czar that specializes in centralized weight loss planning and communal extended fasting programs to shed that fat away in no time. Skin and boned means extra toned is the motto. Just remember, there is no way you can do it on your own. We will forcefully assist you into compliance. Failure is not an option in this utopian wonderland. How fantastic. Typical workout regimes include digging ditches and restocking them with dirt, building railways and more. Get life skills while you get lean. How do you join? Simple. Recite the Constitution in a public commons, or violate the Patriot Act that includes simple misdemeanors. It's really that easy to get your own fenced-in slice of Americana. Stop being a fatty. The state is your daddy.
If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening. You are listening to Are You Ready Radio with Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper.
And here we are you ready radio? I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper, with you this Wednesday evening. If you may be starting to listen on some of affiliates that are picking us up, you're probably not hearing it on Wednesday evening. So don't call in. But the phone lines are open for anybody that is listening to us live tonight, 513-815-6338. And boy, we have a lot we got to get through in the final half hour here, so we are going to make it happen now. Some of the gear we were just talking about, the whole bivvy thing that happens, It's the gear. It's that warming device. It's like this Mylar blanket. It's so, if you're a prepper, this is the one thing that you really do want to keep you warm. You can do so much with it. And I've built a little tube tent out of it. And it's actually kept me warm on a 40, 41, 43, whatever it was, degree night, hiking through some trails. And, so now we're getting into some of the gear. Look it up. It's a bivvy. We sell them at the Zombie Outpost. And it's Mylar. It's kind of like a glorified potato chip bag, I guess is the best way to explain it. It works by trapping your body heat in because it doesn't allow any air particles or heat to pass through it. So I guess if you're careful, you won't suffocate. But if you have any concern about that, bivvy's number 7, the gas mask. Gas mask and filter. You may need one if the air you breathe ever becomes toxic. And at least having one in a household is quite important. I know now some folks are like, wait a minute, you were just talking about before the last 2 breaks? No anxiety. Gas mask is like one of those hardcore prepper examples, of the doomsday prepper items that, a disaster is coming. Well, what if there's something like an out-of-control riot where tear gas is being deployed? Volcanic eruption? Deadly pandemic? Wildfires? And then we'll get into a nuclear attack and chemical attacks. A gas mask is actually very useful for a number of different things. It's not one of the most extreme preps that you can even have. So having at least one a household, if you guys are sheltered in place, and remember, this episode is about some of the prepping basics, which leads me to the next point. Number 9 on my list is then the bug-out bag. Now you're starting to get into prepping. You may want to hunker down for most emergencies, but leaving the safety of your own home and supplies could end in disaster if you're not prepared to leave. So creating a bug-out bag, what if you have to leave? Because, think about it. Sometimes, some situations, it would really be stupid to stay. The entire neighborhood's burning down, so I'm just going to stay here because I listened to Are You Ready? And, it was a shelter-in-place episode, and, I was told to stay here. No, at times you may really have to leave. So good old Bob is going to come with you, and Bob, bug-out bag, is what that, stands for. And it just has some necessities. And, have something in your bag that even if there's a simple house fire, that you're able to get to a hotel. Maybe you have a change of clothes for work tomorrow. A bug-out bag doesn't have to be all this high-end tactical gear. It just needs to be something as simple as being able to go back to normal life the next day, get away from the emergency that you're in, and check into a hotel, a friend's house, or a neighbor's, and just say, I can somewhat continue life as usual. A couple toiletries, essential medication, a change of clothes to wear for work, school, or whatever it is you have to go to. It doesn't need to be complicated. Maybe a spare credit or debit card, spare keys, important documents. If you need to get out, even if it's just a suitcase, then have it ready. Maybe there's a closet by the front door you just keep that stuff in. And it could even be a little fluffies, little harness and stuff like that. Everybody's going to check into a hotel. So that's number 9 on my list, your little bug-out bag. And we can design a great bug-out bag, and that's for another episode. But you're just getting started, and that's what this is all about. Keeping it simple, starting off the basic steps. Now, number 10 on my list is very important. And I want everybody to hear this because number 10 on my list is going to most likely be the most important part of any tip that I give you. Because there's not a blog, there's not a person that you can talk to that's going to give you this tip as number 10. And sometimes I ponder whether this should really be number 1 or not. But I want to check in with our chat room before I reveal it. Oh, thank you, Dave. Someone's tuning in. Win the national championship. Yeah, that happens around it. Argentina, Canada, you name it. Venezuela, Italy. And even right here in the US of A. Whether they want to call it that or not. But I'm going back to number 10 on my list. And folks, I want everybody to pay attention to this one very carefully. We're now number 10 on the list, And even Magic, my producer, was kind of surprised that this wasn't number 1. Every week, and if you miss an episode, you can go through archives. And number 10 on the list, and this is probably the most essential part of prepping, is to listen to Are You Ready Radio, right here with me. We get to the point. And I do not make a mistake of not doing my research first. There it is. I'm surprised that I was number 10. I thought I was your number 1 tonight. Well, I guess the zeros keep stacking up. Going on to number 11. Develop a simple plan. When you need a plan, you want to be able to use it. If you're not careful, though, the anxiety can grow. And now here we are, full swing again before we run out of time. And I'm going to get into that after this next segment of our little pet prepping segment. And, of course, every week, we love our furry babies. And, basic prepping for your pets, food and water, like we were talking about this evening. All humans need their basic food and water. So do our pets. Well, cats, even more than dogs, need to eat meat. But it's a good thing that they're little and they're small. In the words of Melanie Hope from Counterculture Wise Radio. Wait, what happened? We have no audio. Oh. What happened, Dave? Okay, I want an explanation from the chat room here as to what happened. We could totally rerun that again. Apparently there was no audio. That's okay. We could do a take 2. Wow, you're right. There is no audio. Wow.
Meow, 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 meow. 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 Meow, 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 meow. Meow, meow, meow. Meow, 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 meow.
Okay, now, thank you, Dave, in the chat room, for telling me that some broadcast professional that ran a media company for years that hasn't been on the air using this switchboard in over a year. We did dupe you. I mean, we ran some reruns and pre-records and all that for a while. But yes, I did forget how to use certain facets of the switchboard. So that's why, apparently, the intro music for our pet prepping segment didn't actually work right. So, I appreciate that. Okay, now we can actually kill the music now. And we have our prepping segment, and I hope I'm coming out loud and clear. But prepping for our pets, it goes back to our food and water storage and all that. Well, thankfully for cats, cats need more. Well, actually, cats even more so than dogs need to eat more meat. But it's a good thing that they're a lot smaller, and it doesn't take much room to stockpile enough for your cat. So if you buy canned food, most water that they actually need is stored in that canned food. And if you buy dry food, a bag will actually last a long time, as long as you keep varmint and all that out of there. So, hey, there you go. There's a nice 5-gallon bucket moment for you. So if you shove a bunch of dry cat food in a 5-gallon bucket, your cat should be happy for life as long as they have their teeth. But, cats really have evolved in the desert. I don't know if most people know that. And so they really have a very low water need. A healthy adult cat usually only needs a cup of water per day. And if they're eating dry food, they may need a little bit more. But a cat really only needs a small amount of water. Keep an eye on your kitty, though. If they're consuming a lot more water than normal, there could be some other medical issues for them. Dogs, however, need a lot of water. So, of course, you need to add that to your water supply. So when you're prepping and trying to come up with your plan for your water supply and all that, you may want to factor that a small dog of 30 pounds needs about 30 ounces or almost a liter of water per day. A medium dog may need about 60 pounds, may need 60 ounces of water, or 1.7 liters per day. A dog of 90 pounds may need 2.5 liters per day. So keep that in mind. And Dave in the chat room, if anybody wants to join us in the chat, come on to Spreaker. Dave's funny. He wants me to tell Magic something. Whew, good luck with that. Magic takes orders to me. Tell Magic he doesn't need his snacks. I have the ER on standby. Yeah. We'll see how well me telling Magic how to do anything goes over. Magic got hungry in the middle of the night and, like Hannibal Lecter, tried to eat my face. True survival kitty. And that is our prepping and prepping with pets moment for this evening. Let's go back to our list of what we got. Outside of listening to Are You Ready Radio, maybe now's the time that once you're listening to this, you may want to develop a plan. What is your plan? We were talking about some very simple prepping tips when it comes to sheltering in place, storing food. I mean, even just for 3 days or something like that. You also want to look at your escape or bug out plan. So once you've started doing all the above, you start coming up with a plan. Like I said earlier, what happens if maybe there's a house fire? Maybe there's some reason like a flood or something. You need to leave your home. Maybe just a simple backpack or a suitcase may be beneficial. And also look at some other things. Like some core things to include in your plan. A communication plan, a meeting point, a backup meeting point. Does everybody have emergency contacts? I mean emergency contacts like if their cell phones don't work. Do they know a phone number to call if they have to use someone else's phone because they can't pull it up? And what kind of procedures do you have for specific types of disasters, such as fire, flood, earthquake, and all kinds of natural disasters, hurricane? Do you have a designated place in your home? Do you have a procedure that you follow? You know, sometimes it's kind of a fun game, especially if you have little kids. Just say, hey, listen, let's play lights out. Let's play, there's no power, and we're going to go the next 24 hours or 2 days. We need to do everything from mom's going to cook dinner, dad's going to go to work, or dad's going to cook dinner, or mom's going to go to work, and the kids are going to school, and friends can come over, but there is no power. Whatever it is, whatever the normal real-life scenario is, can you do it without power? Can you do it in the dark? And can you make it a fun event? Do you have some games? Do you have some fun that can actually happen? And you can make it eventful. You can make it like, okay, part of your plan is who's in charge of where the candles are? Who's in charge of, how do we cook a meal? Using the backup cooking source. There's a lot of different facets to it, I guess we could say. And it can be a lot of fun, especially when you have kids, to actually train them and help them learn. So, even in your plan, are you actually just planning, or are you actually training and practicing? And that is something that you really need to start working towards. Before we run out of time, I want to get into our financial segment. So what's more important to you and your family? And sometimes we got to look at it. Is it like your cell phone? Is it like coffee? Is it healthcare? Like your new iPhone? Stuff like that. Well, money is value. When you spend money, you essentially... you're really deciding on what you do and don't value in life. Honestly, for 99% of us who have a limited amount of money to spend each month, the order of what you spend money on represents the ranking of what you value most. So if you pay your 300 channel plus TV bill first, but only put money into your retirement account, if there happens to be some leftover at the end of the budget or the end of your monthly budget, you're essentially saying your future is less important than watching the Kardashians, we'll say. So, you and your future. And first, I'm thinking, and this is something that I've always kind of done when I kind of start budgeting and just kind of start thinking about where the money goes. And how would I phrase this? If you pay your TV first, you only put money into your retirement account, then if there happens to be some leftover at the end of the budget or month, you're essentially saying your future is less important than watching those shows. So you and your future and the bonuses that come from the Healthy Financial Foundation, like emergency preparedness and family happiness, is more important than anything else. So you really need to show yourself and your family what you're truly, really what, I'm trying to think of how to phrase this. The idea is there. You want to pay yourself first. So create a simple budget and stick to it. Budgets are like diets, we'll say. I mean, look at me. I hate diets. And I can't stick to them. But budgets, to me, are more important. And it's really a way to keep yourself on track. And I have found over the years that there's really no shortcut. So if you pay yourself first in this model, a good rule of thumb is like a 50-30-20 budget. You take 50% of that, 50% of what you make, and it goes towards your needs, like housing and healthcare, the kids, and blah, blah, blah. 30% of that is to your wants. And your wants are like eating out or trendy new clothing, stuff like that. And 20% of your budget goes towards paying yourself. Now, with paying yourself, I do a pay myself model where it's like, okay, this is what I do for the kids every year when it comes to camping, or this is what I want when I go on vacation, or this is what I want when it comes to certain things that I splurge on. But I lock myself into that. But I also have a 50% of what I make that goes towards the main thing, which are needs. So breaking it down into needs, wants, and yourself. And even if I don't use it on myself, or if I roll in from wants into that portion of my savings account. So my bank accounts are kind of complicated. I could take something that is something that's budgeted for myself and pull from the wants, and I can just pass up certain things. And yes, I want another 10 acres of land. But if I take the money that I got that month to allocate to that, I can either put it into yourself or just kind of put it into a savings account. So structure your budgeting, structure your plan, structure a lot of what you do with your prepping to kind of hold back. And this month, with what I spoke about in the beginning of the broadcast, was the price of gas. Some of what I put towards myself in that savings account that I made, or a portion of it, I may not feel the rise in gas as much as a lot of other people because I've already put that aside for that doomsday event that's happening where gas prices are, I mean, like in California, $5.73 a gallon. Around by me, $3.09, which I haven't seen since I left New York, at least close to that high. And at $2.90 something when I left New York over 15 years ago was ridiculous. So I can then release that back into my regular checking account or my debit, account where my where I normally make my purchases, and it really doesn't affect me. It kind of subsidizes what I'd be normally feeling if I didn't have that little reserve or that cushion there. So take that into account. And simple budgeting is just another way of prepping. We've covered a lot in this episode, and we have so much more to cover.
Well, I hope that I helped you seriously think, prepare, and answer the question, are you ready? I'm Nick Pierce, the Barefoot Prepper. I would like to thank everyone for tuning in and the support you give the show. Our guests, the callers, our friends in chat, listeners, clients, customers, everybody at the store, everything. Find Are You Ready on Facebook and Instagram at Are You Ready Radio. You can also find us on the web at nickpiercemedia.com. Click on the program's link. Find us on your favorite podcast platforms and on our home on Spreaker. To contribute to the show, go to Nick Pierce Media and click on the Support the Show link. Are You Ready Radio is the official podcast of Zombie Outpost in Wilmington, Ohio, and is an NP Media Group production. If you like what you are listening to, we appreciate your support. A small contribution from you, the listeners, can continue to help bring you such content and help keep things going here, even if it's just $1 a month. Keep in mind, though, in the spirit of prepping, we believe in redundancy, so it's better to have more than one, but every little bit helps pay the bills. Go to nickpiercemedia.com and click on the Support the Show link. You can make a one-time or monthly contribution in any dollar amount. And again, thank you for your support and listening.